Today I'm going to cover the Stalder Press, specifically for those people that are a little bit tighter in the hips, tighter in the upper back. So I'm going to talk from personal experience because I'm still tight in those areas. I can bang out reps of Stalder presses off the floor, but my feet still tend to drag and I'm a little bit restricted still in the hip area and the back area. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to break down the drills that I used to get my initial Stalder press and things that hopefully will help you along your journey. I'm first going to go through some key stretching exercises. Now, if you want to skip the stretching and go straight to the press exercises, just go to this point now. I'll stick it up on the screen. Okay, so the main two areas that we need to open up for the Stalder press is the spine, so specifically the thoracic area for most people, and the hips. So I'm going to start off with just showing you what I do for the thoracic spine. So most of the time I'm going to start on a foam roller. So I'm going to position the foam roller so it's on the bottom rib, and then just going to go into extension and then flexion. I'm trying to lock in the rest of the body so the point that's moving is only where the roller is. So that's why I'm lightly holding the head just to make sure the neck doesn't open up, and I'm trying to keep the core on so I don't extend the low back too much. And then I slowly make the way up the back. Now, if you're particularly tight here, you could do more repetitions. I'm just demonstrating this with one repetition on each position. And then I lift the bar off the floor. I'm going to roll up and down over that thoracic area. I've got the hands up above the head, so I'm trying to open up as much as I can towards that handstand position. And the closer I take my shoulders and butt towards the floor, the harder that is. And another favourite of mine is to go into that position there and then hold on to something in that position and do longer holds. I've shown that in some of my other videos. So that way you're just trying to get the movement only from where the roller is again, but your body is a straight line, so your legs are straight and the arms are straight. Another daily one that I've introduced quite recently is to lay on the yoga block. Now this is a little bit more aggressive than the foam roller, so if you're particularly tight, I'd stick with the foam roller to start with. Now remember, these are going to be uncomfortable, but we don't want pain. And I'll play around with the position. So I've started with the block sideways. Now you can move it the other direction as well, so it could be long ways like this. And then if you are more open there, you could turn it over onto its end. Then I'm going to go into a box shoulder stretch. So I've got my hands on the box, thumbs facing up. I've gone into a posterior tilt, so I'm not letting the low back arch. Trying to keep the biceps by my ears and the arms straight. I'm lowering as deep as I can into that position. Notice the hips are directly above the knees and the toes are pushed into the floor. And then just a quick opening up into a down dog. And then the next one is opening the hamstrings up, but this is also a spinal movement as well, so a Jefferson curl. So as I come down in the Jefferson curl, I'm taking the chin to chest. I'm rounding through the upper back, the mid back, the low back, keeping the knees a little bit soft. And then when I take the barbell past my mid shin, I'm straightening the legs, locking the knees backwards, and then going as deep as I can. So if you're a bit more flexible here, you'll start to feel the stretch in the low back because you're lengthening all of the spine. But most people, when they're first starting this one, they'll get it in the calves and hamstrings. Now I've got a 20K barbell here. I'm very comfortable with a 20. I've been doing it for quite a long time now. If you're starting out with it, start with a stick, start with a lighter weight, and then slowly progress. Okay, then into the hip stretch. So when I pinch from the bodyweight warrior, so just like a pigeon position, so my left shoulder is to my left knee and my right shoulder is towards my right ankle, and I'm hugging in towards the shin as best I can. And that should be a big glute stretch there. And then I come up into that position and I'm trying to take the chest towards the shin, heel towards the butt, and then you can cradle the leg. Now with this one, I'm trying to get the crease of the elbow into the arch of the foot, and I'm trying to like floss into the hip joint. You shouldn't feel that in the knee or the ankle. And then the same in the opposite, so crossing the leg over, that's right leg on top now, right shoulder to right knee, left shoulder to right ankle, and then again hugging the shin towards the chest. And I should be feeling that in my right glute. And then butt towards the heel, chest towards the shin. The right side is much tighter for me. And then the same one, so I'm going to cradle the leg. So crease of the elbow into arch of the foot, and then I'm pushing the right knee away from me while I floss into that right hip. Again, you shouldn't feel that in the knee or the ankle, you should feel it in the hip. Then I'm just going to test my pancake position. Now I've got my pancake into a pretty good position now. I originally could not sit in pancake in a straddle seated position like that. So if that's the case, raise your butt up on some blocks or a cushion or something, or even if you're super tight, go up onto a box, slightly bent knees, lean forwards. Try and spend most of the time here with a flat back. Now if you are comfortable with this position, we can start to load it. So here I am with a plate on the back, so this is the harder version. So notice again how I'm reaching down as far as I can with a flat back. I'm trying to reach the elbows away from me as I come up and down there. If you are tighter, you could go down as far as you can with a flat back, and then when you can't get any further, then round the back, bring the elbows to the floor or close towards the floor, and then come back out through the round and then through the flat. If you're super tight but want to use the plate, just have the plate in front of you, so it's like pulling you forwards as it leans forwards. Again, so it's lengthening the torso. Okay, then just a general wrist prep. So just get your body in a place now where you can do a handstand. Okay, then we're just going to go into some straddle ups. So open and closing the hip. So more straddle type mobility, very applicable towards the press handstand. So ideally that would be done off the floor with fingers facing forwards. If you can't do fingers facing forwards, you turn the fingers backwards. And make sure at the top you open the hip all the way and then come back down again. Now if that's impossible for you, I definitely did this. I started on some higher blocks. I actually used stacks of weight plates. The yoga blocks are okay, you just gotta be careful you don't fall off the back. And obviously as you progress with this one, you slowly decrease the height of the surface you're on. Notice how my hands are on the surface as well, they're not on the floor. And then we're going to test that straddle L position. So ideally we'd be able to go into that on the floor. If you can't do it on the floor, we can start to raise the hands up. Again, I'm using the yoga block so I could slowly decrease the hands. Just look at the height of the heels now compared to the hands. See how they're a little bit lower than the hands. That's why we need to be raised up. If I'm tighter, I can do it on the box there. Notice now the knees are bent and the feet are definitely below the hands. Then to progress, I could either put something underneath my feet or I could lower the box. Okay, a little bit of compression work now, so I'm just going to do some pike lifts. So the further I take my hands away from me, the harder that is. And then a straddle version. Now this can be done single leg if this is really hard for you. Okay, and then just warming up the handstand. Now if I'm going to start to do the reps, some of these drills up on a box, I need to make sure I can handstand on the box. If I'm doing them on the floor, I need to make sure I can handstand on the floor. And if I'm going to use something like the yoga blocks to change the height, I need to make sure I warm up the handstand on the yoga blocks. So now we've warmed up the top of the position and the bottom of the position. So the top is the handstand, the bottom is that straddle L sit. Now ideally with that straddle L sit, we should be able to push into it from the floor. So here I am raising up from the floor. So I struggle with that. Ideally my feet would be much higher. You can do the same thing, so push up from the yoga blocks. So notice now I'm not climbing into the position, I'm pushing up into it. And again on the box, bent knees, heels lower than the hands to make that easier from a mobility point of view. Then we need to warm up the press handstand. So obviously for the Stalder press, we need to already have a press. So a few reps of the press handstand and ideally finishing on the tiptoes. Then I'm going to look at going in from the straddle L, so from that tiptoe position through to the straddle L. It can be done on the floor, it can be done on the elevated surface, so they're the yoga blocks. And remember, we're just trying to finish in that L sit that we practiced a minute ago. So we've got the bent leg version on the higher up on the boxes. Now we're going to the eccentrics. So full range of motion, but from the top down. So on the floor, notice how my feet will just touch the floor there. That's what I'm fighting with, trying to keep those feet off the floor. Same on the elevated surface on the yoga blocks, coming down, full range of motion. Pause in that straddle L position. Same up on the high box. Again, I'm trying to finish in that straddle L position that my mobility allows me to do. So knees bent, heels below the hands. Next, we have the partial range. So partial range, I'm going to come down and touch a target. Again, we can do it on the floor. So touching the toes to the target. It's a little bit tricky to set this up because it's hard to know exactly where you need them, both on the distance away from the hands, like how deep you go, but also how wide apart they should be. Same thing up on the yoga blocks. So just trying to kiss them. Obviously, as you progress, you just take the target further away from you and then going back up. And then the same on the wooden box. So kissing that target, coming back up. Now you can do it without touching something. You could video it or something like that and just like test the water and see how deep you can go. So we've done the full range eccentric, we've done the partial range to a target. Now we're just going to try the full range. So it can be done on the floor. We can do it on the yoga blocks. And remember, if you want to make that slightly harder, we can reduce the blocks, or we could put something underneath the heels to change that distance between the hands and the heels. And then same again up on the wooden box. So at some point through there, ideally the knees would straighten, so the legs become straight. But as you come down to that straddle L, where the mobility demand is higher, you'll just bend the knees again. And then the ultimate goal is to do this straight from the floor. So you're just sitting in straddle and then you push up into a straddle L and then press from there. I struggle on this floor because my feet still touch the floor. And if I've got socks on the concrete floor, it's much easier because I can slide. So one way, like an in-between, and this is where I'm at, is it's much easier on the concrete floor with socks because I can slide on the way up. So notice I'm sliding, I can go out. So it's much easier for me to do it that way. And then when I come back down, same thing. I'm gonna actually purposely get in contact with the floor, slide through, keep the feet a little bit lower. Then once I've got my balance, then lift the feet up. So hopefully that's given you some ideas on how to train the Stalder Press. And I would make sure that you're training each of those key components. So the mobility, the partial range, the eccentric, and the full range. And just work out, depending on where you're at, how much time you should spend on each one. Now there is a big storm outside at the moment, so hopefully that hasn't disturbed or messed with the audio too much. That is one thing I want to try and upgrade, is the audio. I want to work out the lighting as well and get a different lens for this camera to make it a little bit better. So if you'd like to support the channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. I've got Buy Me a Coffee link in the details of the YouTube video. If you have any questions, oh, that's thunder. I also offer online coaching and coaching in person, Zoom sessions and things like that through my business Aspen Coaching. If you'd like any details on that, send me an email or message me direct. Thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, guys.